Hi, everybody. This is ToutSuite Social Club, and I think the clock is struck 5.
It's just struck 5 o'clock just now.
That means it's 5 o'clock in Napa Valley, and it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah. Right there. Yeah.
So, welcome to all of our guests online. We have a few people who have logged in on video with us, who we'll get to in a little bit. Oops, I see you've got yourself a cocktail.
Awesome. Very good.
Water. What's that?
The LA version.
I'll go on to fix that, I think.
Awesome. So, ToutSuite Social Club is a place where you can log in and be on our show from anywhere in the world. Just go to our website, ToutSuite.com, and join via webcam. If you're shy, you can also watch the show and tweet us questions at ToutSocial or at 5 o'clock. So anyway, let's take it away. First, I want to quickly say that we are serving the Saint-Supreme Napa Valley Estate Cabernet Sauvignon 2009, which is the ToutSuite House Wine of the Month, which is a very brilliant idea we had a couple, maybe 4 months ago, when we realized we were drinking our own wine.
Yeah. Well, drink your own, you can drink your own.
Yeah. So go to saintsupreme.com and get yourself a bottle, or just stop by. So here we have tonight with us Johnny Moda, one of our co-hosts at 5 o'clock somewhere, and James Taylor, another host. I'm Susan Quinn with ToutSuite, and our first guest tonight is Maynard Webb. And James, I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, so we're super excited to have Maynard today. He's a technologist, board member, and now best-selling author. So thank you very much, Maynard, for coming on the show. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So first, congratulations. You've my little bird tells me that you've just gone bestseller on the New York Times list, the Wall Street Journal list, and I think one other as well.
A few, yes, but we're very blessed to have good success out of the gate.
So, and your first book,
yes.
and you don't do things by half.
No, but I had a great partner in writing this book. Carly Adler was fabulous, and the reason we're as successful we are is because of her.
Fantastic. So tell me, how did you get? We're going to talk about your career, but how did you first kind of get involved in the technology industry?
Well, I came out of college and got hired by IBM. So I've been in the technology industry for a long time. And I was a non-exempt person that taught myself how to program, and IBM kept giving you new opportunities. In my early days, I was a hacker. I used to go around the country, and before the internet was there, and they'd say, go try to break something. And that's quite a fun job. And so I would go in and break something.
Right.
I once cut over $1 million check that they didn't know that I had cut. I gave it back, and they gave me a promotion because I was so honest.
But, very honest.
Yeah. So, I just started out from the beginning in the technology industry and just kept doing jobs that I was not qualified to do, but thought it would be fun to try. And grew into being a CIO at one point at Quantum, and then Bay Networks, and then Gateway, and then joined eBay when they had their big outages and couldn't keep the site up, and it was my job to try to fix that with my team, which I did, and then became the COO and went from there.
And so,
cool. I remember that.
You remember that period. And Quantum, was this the same Quantum that went on to become AOL?
No, this is the disk drive.
Ah, okay. There's a different one. So how did you become involved with eBay? You became chief operating officer of eBay.
Right, but I was hired as the president of eBay Technology when, if you remember some of those great outages when they couldn't keep the site up, Meg kept trying to hire people that would be able to scale the company, and it was not working that well. So she hired me, and we put a team together that was actually able to grow the company and scale the technology and make it look easy.
So you kind of you had this incredible career as a technology, and then you also became board member to a number of different and investors. So how did that differ from your career? Of actually kind of building a company where you're now a board member, or you're actually investing in these companies?
I was an investor before a board member, so I've been doing angel investing for about 15 years, and then I always wanted to try to be a board member because I thought it would be interesting to see from the other side of the table what that would be like. And so I've been on a ton of private and public boards. AdMob was probably the most famous private board, and then on public boards, I'm on Salesforce now and Yahoo, and I'm still the chair of LiveOps. But I love being able to provide advice to entrepreneurs on how to grow and scale. And so when I stopped operating, after I retired the first time from eBay.
How many times are you retired?
I'm in retirement too, but I think I'm flunking this one yet again. But when I retired the first time, I promised my wife I wouldn't operate a company for more than 5 years, and that went by very, very quickly at LiveOps. And so I had to create something that wasn't really work for me to keep producing. And so I created this investment network, which I do totally for free for my friends, but we have about 85 people that invest by my side, and they're really talented folks who are all willing to help companies. And, you know, that's a lot of fun. And you get to work with these young entrepreneurs who get out of bed every day that want to change the world. And they have tons of energy, and we try to help figure out how to help them grow, or pick the ideas we think are the most relevant and then help them grow. And then on my board work, I try to help infuse some of the spirit of the entrepreneurs into these bigger companies to keep them young. So I like have a wonderful life because I get to hang with the youth and the enthusiasm of growing things, and at the same time, you know, can work in big companies and try to keep them young and vital.
So, and it's an interesting time just now, obviously, in the Bay Area. I mean, it's just, you know, you go down to areas like Soma in San Francisco, and it's just, you go and have a coffee shop, and there's either someone pitch an app, or, and it's just it's a phenomenal time. And it seems to be that, you know, both in the Bay Area here with technology and, you know, Detroit, you know, a lot of these cities coming back, but San Francisco and that whole Silicon Valley is really seem to lead the charge in terms of new employment, new forms of employment.
Absolutely. And the energy that you see in San Francisco and Silicon Valley is unbelievable. And I know there's a lot of places in the country that are trying to emulate that, but I think this is, when you're talking startups and innovation, this is the epicenter of the world right here.
Yeah. So you had this great, you know, you've had this great career. So what made you suddenly want to come and write this book? Because this has some of the most phenomenal names who have given, you know, great recommendations of this book. You know, you've got Marissa Mayer from Yahoo, you've got Howard Schultz from Starbucks, you've got Mark Andreessen. You've got some pretty heavyweight names, and then the book comes straight out of the gate. What made you write the book, and why did you decide to write it now?
Well, I wrote the book because there's only so much coaching that I can personally do. And when we were at eBay, we saw over 1 million entrepreneurs work on their own terms and be very happy and create businesses. And then when I was at LiveOps, we had these people also working out of their houses that couldn't get regular employment, but were doing a great job, but only for a certain number of hours. Most of them were, you know, stay-at-home moms, and they get to pick what companies they wanted to work for, all that good stuff. And they actually had to be good performers because the work was routed automatically to the best performers. And now I'm hanging with these young entrepreneurs who are just having a blast, and they're all happy. And yet, in America today, over 50% of the people are unhappy in their jobs.
That's a phenomenal statistic.
Yeah, and by the way, that's down 15% in the last 10 to 12 years, which in a world where there's more choice than ever, there's technology that lets you do things, to have that many people not happy, I think, is borderline criminal, especially when it's the place you spend a lot of your time, and, you know, albeit probably most of it. It's where you make your economics and take care of your family. So it ought to be a place of inspiration and hope. And I just think that what has happened is we've entered a new era, and the days of thinking the company was going to take care of you for life are long gone, because companies don't last that long anymore. So they're not the villains. And I developed this book to give people a framework to try to figure out how to take advantage of the situation we have today and take control of their lives and their career.
So before we talk about some of the kind of strategies and solutions that you talk about in the book, why do you think so many people are unhappy?
Well, I think they're unhappy because they are still pining for what used to be, where, like, when I joined IBM, I thought I had a job for life. and they took care of you that way. And as long as the company was healthy, you always put the company first. As long as it was healthy, you had a good career. As you know, as long as you worked hard. That was as long as you worked hard. I got promoted every year, all the good things. But companies don't last as long. You know, the average length of time a company is alive today is about 15 years. It used to be over 25, just 40 or 50 years ago. So competition is much harder. It's harder to be successful for a long time. And then people don't want to stay with companies for as long anymore. So I think there's just this dislocation between when you had a paternalistic era, the company took care of you, to what's going on. And think back then, the company felt it owned you, right?
Yeah.
And we had little terms we'd use, like if somebody took one of your people, they poached that guy. That doesn't exactly sound that awesome, you know?
Before we get too much further, what you've been so generous to offer any of our followers who are watching the show tonight, if you tweet a question to @ToutSocial, TOUTSOCIAL, tweet a question for us that we answer, that Maynard answers, I should say. You will get a book, a signed copy of Rebooting Work. So send your good questions in, and that's a really awesome offer. So everybody, ToutSocial, tweet, start now.
The good news is we only have like 15, 18 more minutes, so there's only so many books.
That's fine. Get the questions in quick. Before we went live, we were talking about this thing. We've had a couple of the authors that have been on in previous shows have talked about the whole trend of digital nomads and location independence, because technology allows people to work from really anywhere. So can you talk us about how you see technology changing the real fundamentals of how we work and where we work?
With the network, with the internet, social, cloud, and mobile, we now know that we can stay in touch wherever you are in very effective ways. My grandkids live in Florida. There's 3 of them. They're all under 3 years old. And my daughter-in-law is phenomenal. I get FaceTime videos every week. I get little videos constantly in my, texted to me. God bless her, because I part of their lives in a different way than I would ever have been able to be with distance. So I think we actually have a lot of power in our hands that we didn't used to have. First of all, you used to have to hire talent only in your own geography. Today, you can hire talent across the world, wherever it is. I also like that people can now stay in the geography they want to live and have a good career. And jobs can come to them versus you having to go to the jobs for the most part. So it opens up a whole new way of working. You don't always have to jump in your car and go to the office. You can work pretty effectively from home. I think of, 8 weeks a year is what the average American spends commuting. Think of that for a second, and think if you could get that back rather than make a trade-off of home life and career. How about getting rid of some of the stuff that doesn't add value to your trade?
Well, when I had my first tech company in the 90s, I had little kids. And before that, before I started emailing and, really using those types of communication, I had to use the telephone. You remember that? You remember that telephone thing?
I don't even use my cell phone.
Do you remember when phone booths? Remember when phone booths?
If you had a child in the background and I'd work from home in a startup company, and if your child decides to let out a big scream, everybody knows about it on your conference call. And so it was very different when I got to email. Nobody really knew what there was the content of your words that mattered, and not all the other stuff that I remember telling my kids, it's important,
Good luck with it. They don't pay that much attention.
But you were saying that about, we were talking about all these, you can work anywhere. You're a board member of Salesforce.com, who's recently just, they made the announcement that they're taking a huge amount of new office space right in San Francisco.
Right.
So how does that work then? The companies are taking these huge spaces.
I still think first of all, they're doing a very good job. Salesforce is doing a very good job of requiring less space per person than they used to, and doing hoteling and things where people can have the option of flexibly working from home and being in the office. there's no doubt that the most effective way to interface with people is face-to-face. It just happens to be the most costly way and very hard to do. And so I think, you know, there's so much energy and excitement in San Francisco that Salesforce is just doubling down there and you know, enjoying their growth.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking just there about the, you know, your experiences. You've worked with, obviously, Meg Whitman at eBay and with Yahoo, you know, when they announced their new CEO, it caused a lot of talk, and it seems a very kind of bold and dynamic move, and it's been treated very enthusiastically by the market and by the whole community. And you're starting to do stuff I see like Flickr. They're starting to revise Flickr, which had a lot of love amongst the tech community, and then it seemed to go away, and now it's coming back. So, you know, talk to me about, you know, Marissa Mayer's involvement.
As a board member, we have a policy that says we have to stay very quiet, so I can't talk at all. What I will say is it was a bold move by the board to hire Marissa, and we're delighted that it did so. And it's awesome to see her take the company to another level. Yeah. That's about all I can say about
So,
we'll throw off camera.
We'll talk about off camera. So, going back to the book, you talk about this 4 mindsets that you outline in the book. Maybe you just kind of elaborate on that.
Sure. Well, if you think about the paternalistic, think of 4 quadrants. In the upper quadrant, I wanted people to operate with a meritocratic mindset, which means what are you doing to get voted onto the team every day? If you had an opening, would you get rehired? As a company, the same thing. Are you the employer of choice for the employee? So in those upper 2 quadrants, that's the mindset you have. In the left hand, you're the company man or woman, which is awesome. You work hard, but the problem is you're only as good as the company you're with. And as you know from the fact that companies don't last as long anymore, there's a ton of people that were really good employees at Bear Stearns and Dewey LeBeau who one day woke up and didn't have a job. So I would just say in today's world, you might want to have some other options and understand what your net worth is. The second quadrant is where I think the sweet spot of work is, and I call it being the CEO of your own destiny. You can work for yourself and be an entrepreneur, or you can work for a company, but you don't cede control of the company. You own your destiny, you own your career. No one will ever care about your career more than you do, and you need to take ownership of that. The bottom 2 areas are under a group that we have an entitlement mentality where they're owed a job or a career, and I think that's a dangerous place to be. On the frame tree, it's called Disenchanted Employees, and as we talked about in the country, we have quite a bit of those, and they're folks waiting to be discovered. They think they don't understand why everybody else has been promoted and they haven't. They're looking to have fun, but they're cranky. And with those folks, I just, really think they've got to get recalibrated on, it's my problem. My career is what I've got to do, and what am I going to do to actually make sure I get as far along in my career as I can. I've got some mentoring help for them in the book. I've got some frameworks for helping them figure out where they want to go. And by the way, if it's not going to get aligned between the company you're with and what you want to do, after really exploring that, you might want to think about joining another company. But I would just have a little caution that often if you haven't addressed the things that made you cranky, you have a pretty good likelihood that you can be cranky at the next place.
And then responsibility for all parts of your life and the balance of that too.
Yeah, it's totally yours.
And when I was first starting to negotiate for things, I realized you have to ask for what you want, and that's your responsibility, right? Yep. Because if you don't, then you've cut yourself short. And I think that employers want, the good ones perhaps, want you to be happy and working and not looking around for something else. And it's your responsibility to ask for it and not feel ashamed or, I can't ask for a raise, or prove it and ask for it.
There are studies that are out there that say self-employed people are twice as passionate as people in companies. And I think that's a symptom of the self-employed people are actually totally accountable for what they're doing, and they have to make it work.
You know if it's going to be bad 3 months down the line because it's on your
It's on your
head.
deal. Yeah. But there's no reason within companies that we can't have that same passion. We're just not unleashing it. And I think some of that's tied to the company's going to take care of me versus I'm going to take care of you.
But how easy is you think that? Because I was a company recently, an office recently, and this is a very, very large Silicon Valley company who are trying to find ways to have that startup attitude within the company. And they were talking about ways that, they've been trying to do that, but it seemed very, very difficult with their large building. It looks a very kind of established type of company. But how do you try and get that mindset? Because they're really missing some of that innovation and just some of that. It's kind of.
I think you create small groups, empower them to do things, and break the rules. And set them up to do different things. And so you have to, even in big companies, you can innovate and do things. I mean, Apple did an amazing job on innovation when everybody wrote them off as dead just 10 years ago, right? And, so they're probably the standard bearer for that. But the way you do it is you set teams up with guidelines that are different than everybody else and let them go innovate. But you also have to reward and champion people that are mavericks. Yeah. When I first started at IBM, they said, we like wild ducks, but they have to fly in formation. So that probably needs to be a little different today.
Actually, talking about that, I mean, we've got Scott Rutherford as one of our guests today. Scott's a very interesting company, which I had a good opportunity of being down there recently with. He's down at Red Bull down at the Santa Monica office, and that seems to be a company it's obviously a big company. There's a lot of employees there, but has a real attitude about the way it does things. And Scott, I mean, it'd be maybe great to get you kind of coming in just now in some of the things that Maynard's been talking about.
So yeah, I mean, well, Red Bull certainly has that maverick attitude going on in pretty much everything it does. I would say, I mean, it's still in compared to being in a startup, which is where I just came from, up in the Bay Area in San Francisco, into Red Bull to build out sort of their first digital products. It's still there's still a mountain of red tape to wade through to get a lot of stuff done though. When you hit certain things, like if you're building digital stuff, a company can be very maverick about things, but convincing their IT department to be maverick about things can be a completely different game, right? So you're like, we're going over here. Well, you can't change the DNS entries. So it has to be everything, right? Because that kind of maverick spirit and startup and moving really fast is a key to it. And it's hard to create, but incredibly easy to dissipate. Totally. You don't have to hit many walls before everybody starts going, whatever. It's going to take longer than I can be asked to spend time thinking about it. But on the whole, yeah, I mean, they are certainly very good at doing that. I mean, I agree with everything you said. I think in my experience, that entitlement thing is a big barrier to getting a lot done a lot of the time. Like wherever position you're at, and even then, and at some points as well, people's attitudes changing as the company grows. And then those things can become barriers to further growth. You hit certain points and that expectation of now having a job and it being security kicks in quite quickly. And to keep growing, you have to get past that and keep that intensity moving, which is, I think, the difference you see in companies that become lifestyle businesses at 30 people and those that blow up into 500 or 1,000 IPOs. And you don't really realize that is happening until it's probably too late, unless you've been through it before, I think. But that's something that I've personally experienced a couple of times. It's hard to keep that motivation happening.
Scott, it's so interesting to hear you talk. We see that a lot where somebody is a great entrepreneur and is passionate about their company, and they're purchased by a bigger company, and they want to stay and make it work, but all of a sudden they run into the bureaucracy that is in a big company, even though companies are doing better and better job of trying to keep them walled off and nimble, and all of a sudden they go from being the CEO of their own destiny to this disenchanted employee within the company structure because they want to go back and innovate and be free again.
A little bit more because someone else is raising your child.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. Totally.
But yeah, you gotta get through that first one and you understand.
I think we've got a couple of questions.
We do.
Coming in, so. We
have some tweets coming in, and I'll choose one. I just cleared it with James. He likes it. So this is it from Tia, from Wine Inc. by Tia. What is the most important lesson you've learned through your own work experience?
I would say to aim high, to really believe the spirit of man. You know, I had to go. I didn't come in the front door in most of my jobs. I had to come in the back door because I didn't have the right pedigree and all that good stuff. And if you believe in yourself and you're really serious about what you want to do, you can do anything. So aim high is probably the best advice that I can give.
I like that one.
Yeah.
So Tia's getting a
Congratulations.
signed copy of Rebooting Work.
Yeah.
So let's get that to you, Tia.
And as you progress throughout your career, I mean, I'm not sure if you mentioned too much in the book, but the role of mentors within that. How you know, as you kind of in your career, how were mentors like you?
Oh my God, I had so many people that gave a young kid advice, including the guy at IBM as I got promoted out of a non-exempt job and had to start wearing suits that told me that pink leisure suit was probably not too cool. So that was good advice.
Yeah.
But all along the way, I was mentored. I'm like a sponge that because I didn't come up a traditional way, I had to learn from everybody else that had done it. I learned from folks working for me. I learned from folks that were peers. I learned from bosses. I learned from industry pundits. I believe that that's going to be such a gap as we move into this new world of work where you're not in a company for a long time. And by the way, even in the traditional companies, when you did mentoring well, you still tried to keep people in your own company. So you weren't really telling them what their net worth was in the rest of the world. You were trying to, like, here's how you can be successful in IBM. So we feel so strongly about it, we just built a company around the book called Outside Counsel to provide service for people to help them in this new world.
And I believe your son is involved in one of your businesses as well. And
yes, my son works with me at Webb, the Webb Investment Network, and he helped me found it and create it with Michael Nerl, who runs it for me. It's quite delightful to work with him. Don't know how long I'll get to do that because he wants to be an entrepreneur.
How does a startup company get to pitch to the Webb Investment Network?
All you do is you look up Win Funding, Webb Investment Network, winfunding.com. I'm Maynard at winfunding.com. Send us your ideas and we'll take a look at it.
All right.
So apart from us all going out and buying the book, which you can do for any good seller, but the companies that you're investing in just now, you know, through the investment network, what are some of the ones that you think we should maybe kind of check out that you're really excited about?
Oh, they're all my children. So we have 46 of them. But a couple that are doing really well. Badgeville, I'm in a third or fourth round with them. That was the first angel in them. Meteor is a very hot technology company. Take Lessons down
that's great company.
Santa Monica. And then the fancy we did just, which is a really cool, hot property in New York, we did just as we were forming Win. So it doesn't count as a Win investment, but it's still one I'm very proud of here. And then we really liked Ripple. We were all passionate about Ripple with the future of work, but then Salesforce bought it.
Yeah.
So they're now part of the
Speaking
Salesforce.
of that, is there any certain sector that you're looking at for the future and looking for companies that?
Sure, we try. I'm sorry.
No.
We try very hard to work with companies that we have a little bit of knowledge in industry. So big and mobile, cloud computing, enterprise software, and internet, which are pretty broad categories. But if we don't know, you know, I don't want to just be an investor. I want to have some edge based on the fact that I had to try to deploy technology or implement it somewhere else before. So those are the spaces we play with right now.
Yeah, add more value.
We happen to have our slide deck right here. I'm ready to show it.
We
Send it. Awesome.
We can be doing a live pitch just now.
You don't need money. You don't need any money.
Well, Maynard, thank you very much for coming on. We want you to kind of stay on as we talk with some of these other guests as well, because we'd love to get your input on some of the next pieces on the show.
All right. Thank you.
We'll give you a chance to have a sip of your wine as you. Yeah.
All right.
So,
you want me to
Please stay with us.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Johnny, hand over to you.